We're going to start off with Harriet Minter, not Mintner. Harriet's the editor of Guardian's Women in Leadership section. She's one of 4 sisters and grew up surrounded by strong-minded, opinionated women. Where did you grow up, Harriet?
Well, actually, my mother's one of 4 sisters who grew up surrounded by strong-minded, opinionated women in Liverpool. I'm only one of 2, but we were equally strong-minded, and we went down as well.
There you go. So that's the whole talk. Thank you, Harriet. And our next speaker is says here, part of the inspiration for her work today is to encourage the development of women leaders in businesses and organisations. So please welcome Harriet.
I am the editor of the Guardian's Women in Leadership section, which, if you haven't seen it, is a section on the Guardian's website which is dedicated to kind of talking about gender diversity in the workplace and how we get more women through and into top leadership roles. And I actually launched the section just over a year ago, so in April 2013. And there were lots of reasons why I wanted to launch it. As a woman, I feel very personally involved in having more women at the top. I feel very strongly that's actually better for our society. But mainly I realized that if I could launch this section, I would sort of accidentally give myself the best job in the world. And I have a great time. I trot around the country and I meet amazing women and I ask them about their stories and their secrets of success. And we have a cup of tea and it's lovely. It's like my own personal MBA, but with cake. And I've been doing this for just over a year now. And one of the things about running a section which is dedicated to providing advice for women in their careers is people say to you all the time, well, what's the best piece of advice? What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? And I've heard some amazing advice in the last year. I mean, I've met some brilliant, brilliant women, but actually the best piece of advice came way before that. It came when I first started at The Guardian, just over 4 years ago. And it was one of those days when you hear something and it strikes such a chord in you, you think, I must write that down immediately. I must write it down and I must live my life by it because that will change my life. So I wrote it on a Post-it. I stuck it on my computer so that I would see it every single day. And for 3 years, I completely ignored it. And I did not follow that advice at all. And this is what it said. Proceed until apprehended. Which is not just for Liverpool, it's for everyone. This is the actual Post-it that I had on my computer. It's a photo of it. You can't see on the other side, there's another Post-it which says no carbs before marbs. Didn't follow that one either. So, proceed until apprehended came from this idea of we don't need permission to do things. We can just do them. Don't wait for somebody to tell you it's okay. Just do it. And what I've learned over the last year is that this is a particular problem for women. We are bad. I'm sorry, ladies, we are. We are bad at just doing stuff. We want somebody to say, it's okay, you can do it, go for it. And it's lovely when they do, but sometimes the world is not that kind. And it's a problem because we start off from our very earliest days telling women they need to be nice, they need to be liked, they should be sugar and spice. But then when you get into the workplace, terrifying fact is managers are not very good at telling you how good you are. They're not very good at telling you how nice you are. And they're certainly not very good at giving you praise at the exact moment that you need it. They only remember that kind of 3 months later when they want you to say something nice about them in a 360 appraisal. And so over the year, I've had women coming to me and saying, well, I really, really want to do this project, but I'm worried. Or I really think this is a great idea, but I haven't been able to get it off the ground. I've also attended a lot of women's events, and whenever you attend a women's event, there is one fact that comes out again and again and again, and I have tried to find the source of this fact, and I can't. So maybe it's not true. But let's repeat it, just so that we keep on trend, which is that men look at a job description and see 10 things on that list and think, I can do 2 of those, I'm going to apply for it. Women look at the same job description and think, oh, I can only do 8, better not apply. Now, as somebody who once applied for a job in hostage negotiation on the back of seeing the film Proof of Life, I'm maybe not the best example of this. It's a very long story. But what that says to me, the fact that that stat comes back again and again at every conference I go to, says that there is fear, and this fear is paralyzing. Okay, and when we are scared, we stop. We don't proceed. And we stay where we are. And this, for me, has one really, really big problem, which is women then don't start businesses. In fact, men start businesses at twice the rate that women do, and yet when women start those businesses, like for like, they are more successful than their male peers. So if more women started businesses, we'd have more successful female entrepreneurs. Think what we could do with that. We could get rid of Lord Sugar from The Apprentice. Richard Branson is sending Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, and George Clooney into space. If we had women investing in science, we'd be cloning Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, and George Clooney. Okay? We need those female entrepreneurs. But in order to do that, we have to get past this paralyzing fear. And so I wanted to tell you a bit about how I learned to do that. So this is the story of how women in leadership came to be. About 18 months ago, I was working at The Guardian in a brand new team, and part of my role was looking at what worked. So what on our website did particularly well? What could we do more of? And I sort of looked at it, and I realized that every time we wrote anything about women and work, it just flew. I thought, well, that's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. And I sort of had a bit of a think about it, and I noticed at the same time that every time I got on the tube, there was somebody reading Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. I was like, we should capitalize on that. That's what I'm doing now. And I thought, that's quite interesting. And I went to a few people, and I said, I've got this idea. What do you think? I think we should do a section just about women and work. And they went, oh, yeah, it's quite interesting. I went, oh, okay. So I'd go to somebody else, and I'd be like, I've got this great idea. I really want to do it. They're like, oh, yeah, no, it's interesting. And I did this again and again, and I went up and down. I was like telling everyone about it, and nothing was happening. And I got more and more frustrated. I was like, I've got this idea, and it's brilliant. Why is nothing coming from it? And I sort of looked in my usual, I didn't think it was anything to do with me. I was like, I've got a great idea. Come on, people, jump on board. So I was like, why is nothing coming from this? Anyway, I had a coffee with a colleague of mine who worked in another department, and I was telling her about it, and she said, you know what, that's really interesting, because I really want to run an event on that same theme. So you want to set up a whole section, I just want to run an event. Should we do it together? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great, let's do it together. So we formed this really little secret society to run this event. And we didn't really tell anyone about it, kept it quite quiet. We got together a panel of brilliant, inspirational women to come and speak. And we put a little advert at the very, very back end of The Guardian's website. And we said, well, it's fine, because if nobody comes, we'll just deny all knowledge. Just say, no, I haven't heard of that, it's not me. Have you talked to somebody over there? It's definitely not me. But what happened was that we sold out that event in 48 hours. And when we'd sold it out, I went to one of the senior guys in my department, and I said, look, no, I haven't really mentioned this to you, but we've created this event, it's sold out, and I really, really think you should come along. And he said, okay, I'll come. So he came. He was the only guy in a room full of 120 women. And at the end of it, I said to him, what did you think? And he was like, it was fascinating, it was a great event. But this weird thing, I really wanted to ask a question, but I felt, because I was the only man in the room, that I couldn't. And I was like, yeah, that's what it's like to be a woman. And he said, in that case, we need to do it. This needs to happen. And 2 months later, we launched the Women in Leadership section. Since then, we've had over 1 million unique women on that site. I am very, very proud of it. But something occurred to me about 3 months or so after we'd launched. It took a man saying to me, we should do this, for me to say, yes, let's make it happen. I didn't give myself permission. And so I now need to start saying, I am just going to proceed until apprehended. I am going to go for it, because what is the worst that can happen? These are the things I've learned if you're going to proceed until apprehend. These are your stepping stones. Number one, find an ally. Okay? It's much easier if there's somebody else who you can shift the blame onto if it goes wrong, but who can back you up at the same time. Number two, start small. I'd wanted to create a whole site, but actually just starting with an event was enough. And number three, commit. Don't have an idea, commit to your idea and go for it. Because this is the really, really funny thing about proceeding until apprehended. If you have a great idea and you push for it and you make it happen and you proceed, people won't want to apprehend you. They'll want to follow you. Thank you.